My name is Hazel, and I'm 46 years old. If you told me 10 years ago that I'd be running a little bakery in downtown Philadelphia, one that smells like warm vanilla and cinnamon from sunrise to sunset, I'd have laughed. But that bakery isn't just a business. It's my heart stitched into brick and sugar. I built it from nothing after my divorce, pouring every ounce of energy I had into proving to myself that I could survive on my own. And for a while I did. Then came Greg. He showed up one spring morning, tool belt, slung low smile, easy eyes kind. I'd hired him to renovate the bakery when I decided to expand. He wasn't the kind of man you'd immediately suspect would ruin you, the kind that sneaks in slowly wrapped in patience and charm. He always had a joke, ready a story about his daughter Chloe, and a way of listening that made you feel like the only person in the room. He told me about his life like it was a movie, rough childhood, early marriage, a painful divorce. He painted himself as a man trying to rebuild from the ashes, determined to give his daughter a better life. Chloe's my world, he said once, wiping sawdust from his hands. Her mom messed up a lot, but I promised myself I'd never let her down again. That sentence hooked something deep inside me. Maybe because I'd never had anyone promise something like that. Maybe because I grew up with parents who only promised to leave. He had this soft, worn charm, the kind that doesn't shout for attention, but stays with you. I'd bring him coffee during breaks, and he'd tell me about how Chloe was shy but sweet, and how he worried about her feeling lonely. One afternoon, as the light poured through the bakery windows, I remember thinking, he's a good man. Maybe this is the kind of man I was meant to find all along. When the renovation finished, Greg asked me to dinner to celebrate a job well done. It turned into hours of laughter and quiet confessions. Two people who'd both been hurt, pretending we didn't need anyone, but clearly aching for connection. Within months, he and Chloe were spending weekends at my place. At first, it felt like a dream. We'd make pancakes together on Sundays, and Chloe, 11, then would help me decorate cupcakes for fun. She was polite, a little shy, always watching me carefully, like she wasn't sure if I was safe to trust. One morning, she called me Miss Hazel and smiled. It was small, but it melted me. I told myself it was the start of something, maybe even love. Greg had a way of talking about the future that made you want to believe in it. You, me, Chloe, we could be a family again, he'd say, his voice soft, eyes steady. A real one this time. That word family hit me harder than I expected. I didn't just want to build a business anymore. I wanted to build a home. We married a year later. Greg and Chloe moved into my house, which had enough space and a backyard with old cherry trees that blossomed pink in the spring. Greg insisted it was our new beginning, and for a while I believed him. Those first months were sweet, almost movie perfect. Greg would drop by the bakery to bring me lunch, kiss my forehead, and tell customers, "That's my wife, best baker in the city." Chloe started opening up too. We'd have family game nights, little movie marathons, and dinners filled with laughter. I remember one night Chloe falling asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder while Greg looked on, smiling. "She's finally got the mom she deserves," he whispered. I didn't know why those words made my chest ache. Maybe because I'd spent so long wanting to be someone's enough. But even then, buried beneath the laughter and warmth, there were cracks, small ones. Like how Greg would sometimes forget his wallet when we went out, or how he'd sigh and say, "You're better at managing money anyway, babe," whenever bills came up. I brushed it off. Love meant partnership, didn't it? You help each other through rough patches. And Greg's rough patch, I told myself, was temporary. Still, sometimes I'd catch a flicker of unease. A comment here, a tone there. Like the way he'd say, "You're lucky I'm handy around the house when I paid for things," or how he'd joke that it's a good thing you've got the bakery to fall back on. Little things that didn't sound wrong until you heard them over and over. But I didn't listen to the warning bells. I wanted peace. I wanted this family to work. Then one night as I was closing the bakery, I caught Greg sitting alone in the corner booth, looking lost. "What's wrong?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Just tired of working for people who don't appreciate me. Thinking maybe I should go out on my own." I reached for his hand. "You'll figure it out. You always do." He squeezed my fingers, his eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. "As long as I have you, I'll be fine." At the time, it felt romantic, like he meant we were in this together. I didn't realize that what he really meant was that I'd be the one holding everything together while he slowly stopped trying. I wish I'd seen it sooner. But for now, I was still dreaming, still believing in the fairy tale that love, hard work, and kindness were enough to keep people good. It would take me years to learn that some people see kindness not as love, but as an opportunity. If I could pinpoint the moment when things started to shift, it wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, like a door that slowly closes without anyone noticing. Greg came home one night with that same easy smile, except this time it didn't reach his eyes. "I quit my job," he said casually, dropping his keys on the counter. I froze. "You what?" He sighed, rubbing his neck. I couldn't take it anymore. The boss was toxic, always breathing down my neck. It wasn't worth it, Hazel. I wanted to be understanding. I really did. So I said the only thing I could think of, you deserve better. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and promised it would just be a short break. He'd figure things out. He always said it like that, vague but confident. Like he had a plan, he just hadn't told me yet. Weeks passed. The short break stretched into months. He didn't look for work. He didn't even pretend to. Each morning I'd leave for the bakery before dawn and return after dark to find him sprawled across the couch, the TV remote in one hand, a half-empty bag of chips in the other. I'd ask softly, "Did you send out any applications today?" He'd glance at me, eyes still on the screen. "Not yet. I'm still thinking about what direction I want to take. I don't want to rush it." At first, I made excuses for him, told myself everyone deserves rest, that maybe he was burned out. But when rest turned into a routine of sleeping in and binge-watching reruns, something inside me started to sink. And then there was Chloe. She was 15 by then, beautiful, bright, but different. When she wanted something, she didn't ask, she expected. One afternoon, she stormed into the kitchen, laptop in hand. "I need this calculator for school," she said. "It's for my math class." I glanced at the screen. $200. "That's expensive, sweetheart. Maybe we can find—" She cut me off. "What's there to find? I need it." I opened my mouth to respond, but Greg's voice drifted lazily from the couch. "Just get it for her, Hazel. It's for school." I felt something twist in my chest. "Greg, we should at least—" He didn't even look up. "She's your daughter too now, right? Don't make a big deal out of it. Your daughter too now." I told myself he meant it kindly, but it didn't feel that way. It sounded like an order, a reminder that my love came with a price tag. So I bought the damn calculator and pretended it didn't sting. But once the boundaries blur, they vanish quickly. Before long, Chloe started treating my money like her own. New clothes, field trips, study supplies. It wasn't the things themselves, it was the tone, the entitlement. "Lauren, I need this jacket for the senior trip. It's $250. "It's mandatory," she said, rolling her eyes. "Everyone's getting one." Before I could respond, Greg spoke again from that same couch. "Just get it for her, Hazel. Don't be cheap." Cheap. The word burned in my ears, but I swallowed it because peace seemed worth more than pride. Except peace started to taste like silence. The silence of washing dishes alone while Greg scrolled on his phone. The silence of paying every bill, every grocery, every little whim. The silence of realizing you've built a home that no longer feels like yours. Sometimes I'd come home from a 14-hour shift at the bakery exhausted, feet aching, flour still clinging to my hair. And the first thing Greg would say wasn't, "How was your day?" but "We're out of snacks." I'd nod, make dinner, and tell myself love was about sacrifice. But it wasn't just Greg. Chloe had started mirroring him. One night I overheard her on the phone with a friend laughing. "Yeah, my stepmom's loaded," she said. "She doesn't care how much stuff costs. I just ask, and she buys it." I froze. That laugh, carefree confidence sliced through me deeper than any insult could. That night, as I sat in bed staring at the ceiling, I realized something awful. I wasn't part of their family. I was their safety net, their provider, their convenience. I thought maybe I was being dramatic, so I tried talking to Greg. "Greg," I said one evening, sitting across from him while he flipped through channels, "we need to talk about the bills. I can't keep carrying everything by myself." He sighed. "You're overthinking this. We're fine." "No," I said quietly. "I am fine. You're comfortable." He turned his head slowly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, voice shaking, "you haven't worked in months. You don't contribute. You don't even try." He leaned back, crossing his arms. "You make good money, Hazel. Why are you so obsessed with control?" "This isn't about money. It's about power." That word power made my skin crawl. "I'm not controlling you," I whispered. "I just want a partner." He smiled faintly, coldly. "Then stop acting like my boss." I stared at him, the man who once said he wanted a family, not a paycheck. The man who used to bring me coffee just to see me smile. Now he couldn't even look at me without resentment. That night, as I stood in the dark kitchen after they'd gone to bed, I looked at the photo on the fridge, the three of us at the bakery. On opening day, we were laughing, covered in frosting, pretending to be a family. But in that moment, all I saw was myself standing between two people who only stayed as long as I kept paying. And for the first time, I wondered if love could rot quietly, one unspoken resentment at a time. It's strange how the moments that shatter you rarely announce themselves. They don't start with shouting or storms. Sometimes they begin with balloons and laughter. Chloe's 18th birthday was supposed to be beautiful. I told myself that even as I handed over my credit card again and again for things I couldn't afford. "This is her big milestone," Greg said one night as we sat at the kitchen table scrolling through party vendors on his phone. "You only turn 18 once." Oh. I wanted to protest, tell him we didn't need to spend hundreds on decorations or live music. But then I looked at Chloe, her face lighting up as she showed me photos of fancy setups she'd found online. "Could we do it at this bakery?" she asked, her tone hopeful. "Everyone says it looks so classy." Classy. My bakery, the one I built from flour and exhaustion, had suddenly become her stage. "Maybe something small," I said gently. She pouted, eyes narrowing. "Dad said it'd be fine." Greg placed a hand over mine and smiled. "Come on, Hazel, it's her big day. Let's make it special." It wasn't a request, so I gave in. I closed the bakery early, hired a small band, and ordered custom cupcakes with edible gold accents. I told myself it would be worth it. Maybe this would be the moment Chloe finally saw how much I cared. The night of the party, the bakery glowed under soft lights and garlands. Tables lined with pastries, candles flickering in mason jars. It was perfect. I even caught myself smiling as I watched Chloe twirl in her designer dress. For a fleeting moment, I thought maybe we're okay. Then she walked in. Even before anyone said her name, I knew. There was only one person who could carry that much chaos in her wake. Nah, Chloe's biological mother. Her lipstick was smudged, her heels too high, her perfume sharp enough to sting. She stumbled through the bakery doors like she owned the place. "There's my baby girl," she shouted, arms wide. The crowd of teenagers turned to look. Chloe froze, panic flickering across her face, then quickly masked it with a smile. "Mom, you made it," she said, rushing into her arms. "Made it." My stomach dropped. I hadn't invited her. I looked at Greg across the room. He was leaning against the wall, sipping soda like this was perfectly normal. "Greg," I whispered harshly as I walked over. "What is she doing here?" He blinked, unconcerned. Chloe wanted her here. I didn't think it was a big deal. Not a big deal. The same woman who hadn't shown up sober to a single event in years, who Greg swore was too unstable to be around Chloe, was now at my bakery during a party I paid for. Na made her way around the room like she belonged, hugging guests, talking too loudly, laughing too hard. I kept trying to avoid her, but she was everywhere, touching the desserts, criticizing the music, telling anyone who'd listen about how she used to bake better cupcakes back in the day. And Greg, he did nothing. When I finally sat down at a table near Chloe, Na strutted over and dropped her bag onto the seat beside me. "This is my spot," she said flatly. I blinked. "Excuse me." Her lips curled. "This is my daughter's party. I should be sitting next to her, not you." I could feel the heat crawling up my neck. "There are plenty of empty chairs," I said evenly. "Pick one." Na laughed loud, sharp, the kind that cuts the air. "Look at you," she sneered. "The big bad stepmom. Think you can replace me with your fancy bakery and your fake smile." The room went silent. Chloe's friends stared. Greg stood frozen, not saying a word. "Money can't buy love, sweetheart," Na added, leaning closer, her breath thick with wine. I clenched my jaw. "You need to leave." "Oh, don't get dramatic." She waved her hand, then, as if possessed by something ugly, grabbed a plate of food and flung it onto the floor. Glass shattered, and people gasped. "That was it! Get out!" I said, my voice trembling with fury. Na threw her head back and laughed. "You think you can kick me out of my daughter's party?" She turned toward Chloe. "Tell her, baby. Tell her I belong here." Chloe stared at the floor, silent. That silence, her silence, hurt worse than anything Na could have said. I nodded to the security guard I'd hired just in case, my voice shaking. "Escort her out." Nay kicked and screamed all the way to the door, calling me names I won't repeat. When she finally disappeared into the night, the party was left in awkward ruins. Conversations turned into whispers, music turned down, laughter gone. Greg still said nothing. He just stared at his drink like a coward. Chloe didn't even look at me. When we got home that night, I tried to talk to her. "Chloe, I'm sorry about what happened, but..." She cut me off, eyes red with anger. "You didn't have to make it worse. If you'd just let her sit with us." My heart cracked. "Chloe." She threw food at me. "So what? She's my mom." The words hit like a slap. I looked at Greg. "Are you going to say anything?" He exhaled slowly. "Let's talk about it tomorrow." Tomorrow. Always tomorrow. But the next day came and nothing changed. I went to the bakery early, swept up the glitter and crumbs from the night before, and stared at the faint stains on the floor where Na's plate had shattered. It felt symbolic, something broken that couldn't be scrubbed away. That night, as I lay in bed beside Greg's sleeping form, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I'd made a mistake I couldn't undo. Because deep down, I already knew the woman who crashed that party didn't just ruin a night, she exposed a truth I'd been refusing to see. I wasn't part of their family. I was the outsider funding it. And from that moment on, something in me began to harden. The morning after the birthday disaster, the silence in our house felt different, heavier. It wasn't the kind of silence that means peace. It was the kind that means something is decaying quietly underneath. Chloe barely came downstairs the next few days. When she did, it was just to grab food and retreat to her room. Greg acted like nothing had happened. He'd hum while making coffee, flip through his phone, laugh at some meme. I was the only one who still felt the weight of that shattered plate. One afternoon, I came home from the bakery to find Greg lying on the couch the same way he had been for months, surrounded by snack wrappers and dirty dishes. I stopped in the doorway, my voice tired. "Did you send out any job applications today?" He didn't even look up. "Not yet. I've been brainstorming ideas for my business." "The same business you've been brainstorming for almost a year," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. He finally looked up, annoyed. "What's your problem, Hazel? I told you these things take time." I laughed bitterly. Time or effort, because one of those seems to be missing. He sat up, his expression darkening. "You don't understand what it's like to start over." "I do," I snapped. "I built my entire bakery from nothing. Don't tell me about starting over." That was when I saw it, his eyes. The warmth that used to make me melt was gone, replaced by something cold and resentful. "You always think you're better than me because you make more money," he muttered. My voice trembled. "I don't think I'm better. I just think I'm tired." He scoffed and went back to scrolling through his phone. Conversation over. That was Greg's way. When things got hard, he checked out. And lately it felt like Chloe had learned the same skill. A few days later, she came down with her arms crossed and an attitude that filled the room before she even spoke. "I need new furniture," she said flatly. "My room looks childish." I blinked. "What?" "A new bed, new dresser, maybe a vanity. I've outgrown everything in there." "Chloe, we just spent thousands on your birthday. Can it wait a few months?" She rolled her eyes. "You just don't want to spend money on me because I'm not your kid." That line, those exact words. It was like a knife made of every sacrifice I'd ever made for her. I stared at her, speechless. "I've done everything for you," I said quietly. "Everything." She shrugged, already walking away. Whatever. Greg didn't say a word. He never did when it mattered. That night, I sat on the couch with my hands trembling, listening to the muffled sounds of their laughter upstairs. The kind of laughter that used to make me happy. Now it sounded like exclusion. Something in me broke that night. Not like glass, more like wood cracking under pressure after too many winters. The next morning, I told Greg we needed to talk. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, looking bored. "I can't keep doing this," I said. "You need to get a job, Greg. I don't care what it is. You can't just live off me." He raised an eyebrow. "You're being selfish." I almost laughed. Selfish. "You don't understand how hard this has been for me," he said, losing my confidence, trying to rebuild. "You have your bakery. You have purpose. I have nothing." "You have me," I said, tears burning my eyes. "You have this house, food, support. But you act like that's not enough because it's not coming from you, because it's not about you." He slammed his mug down. "You always make it about money." "Because it is about money," I shouted back. "Because I'm the only one earning it." For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. Then he said softly, "You're just like everyone else. You only love what I can do for you." That broke something final in me. I leaned back in my chair and looked at him. Really looked at him. The man who once talked about family stability and partnership was now a stranger using my kindness as a crutch. "I think you've got that backwards," I whispered. "You love me for what I can give you." He stood abruptly, muttering under his breath, and left the room. Later that night, I walked into Chloe's room to drop off some clean laundry. She was lying on her bed, scrolling through her phone. I hesitated at the door. "Chloe," I said softly, "I know things have been tense lately, but—" She didn't look up. "Don't start. I just want us to talk." She sighed, exasperated. "Look, can we not do this right now? I'm tired." Her tone was exactly like her father's. Detached. Entitled. I closed the door quietly and stood in the hallway, staring at the walls that once felt like home. Every picture, every piece of furniture, every little thing in that house, I had paid for it. But somehow I felt like the guest. That night, I lay awake, replaying every moment of the past few years. Every, "I'll do it later." Every, "Don't be dramatic." Every time I'd given in to keep the peace. And that's when the thought hit me sharp and clear. If peace requires losing yourself, it isn't peace, it's submission. I realized I'd been living in a house full of people who only saw me as useful. A paycheck, a safety net, a servant dressed as a wife and mother. But something inside me, the part that once built a bakery out of nothing, started whispering again. No more. I didn't know it yet, but that whisper would become a roar soon enough. By the time Chloe's graduation rolled around, my hope for that family had worn as thin as parchment. I was running on habit, not love, keeping the peace like it was another unpaid job. When Chloe burst through the door, waving her acceptance letter from NYU, I wanted to feel happy for her. I really did. She looked genuinely proud, for once her smile wide and unguarded. Lauren, Dad, I got in, she shouted, waving the envelope. That's amazing, Chloe, I said, smiling back. Congratulations. Greg grinned, pulling her into a hug. I knew you'd do it, kiddo. Then Chloe turned to me with a tone so casual, so matter-of-fact, it almost didn't register at first. So, when can we talk about tuition? It was like the air froze around me. Tuition, I repeated. She nodded. Yeah. I got some aid, but it's not enough. You'll help with the rest, right? The you wasn't even a question. It was an assumption. I looked at Greg, waiting for him to say something, anything that would make it sound less insane. Instead, he nodded like it was already settled. She's right, Hazel, he said calmly. You can afford it. That's when I knew they'd already talked about this. Without me. I took a slow breath, forcing calm into my voice. Chloe, I'm proud of you. Truly. But NYU is extremely expensive. Have you looked into scholarships or part-time work? Her face twisted in disbelief. A job. How am I supposed to focus on school if I'm working all the time? Plenty of students work while studying, I said evenly. It builds responsibility. Greg's jaw tightened. She's just a kid, Hazel. You don't want her to struggle. A kid, I shot back. She's 18, Greg, an adult. And for months she's treated me like I don't matter, and now I'm supposed to pay her tuition. Chloe's eyes filled with tears, angry ones. You're just trying to punish me because of the party. I felt my chest tighten. Punish you. Chloe, this has nothing to do with that night. This is about money and respect and the fact that I can't keep carrying everyone. Greg threw his hands up. There it is again. Money, money, money. You're obsessed with it. No, I said, voice trembling. I'm obsessed with fairness. You're the one obsessed with my bank account. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the soft click of Chloe's acrylic nails against her phone. Then Greg said quietly, You know, Hazel, you're lucky we stayed as long as we did. That sentence, something inside me snapped. Lucky, I repeated, my voice rising. You mean lucky I fed you. Lucky I housed you. Lucky I financed every comfort in your lazy life while you played entrepreneur on the couch. Greg's expression turned cold. You've changed. You used to be kind. No, I said, shaking my head. I used to be naive. He slammed his hands on the table. Either you help with Chloe's tuition or I'm filing for divorce. I met his eyes unflinching. Then file. The silence that followed was deafening. Greg blinked, stunned. He wasn't expecting me to call his bluff. Fine, he spat. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll regret it alone. He stormed off, slamming the bedroom door. Chloe followed him upstairs, muttering, You're so selfish. That night, I sat in the living room, long after the lights were off. The walls felt different, like they'd stopped belonging to me a long time ago. I thought about all the times I'd caved for peace, all the things I'd bought to feel wanted, all the words I'd swallowed to avoid conflict. And then I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who built a bakery from nothing, who didn't wait for someone else to hand her happiness. That woman didn't disappear. She'd just been buried under everyone else's needs. The next morning, Greg came down with a different tone, soft, rehearsed, manipulative. Hazel, he said, don't do this. We can fix it. You know Chloe needs you. I looked up from my coffee. No, Greg. She needs you. But you've never actually been there for her, have you? He stiffened. That's not fair. Fair, I said quietly. You want fair, then pay for your own daughter's college. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. When he realized I wasn't going to back down this time, he packed his things slowly, dramatically, as if expecting me to stop him. I didn't. Chloe glared at me, from the stairs, her suitcase beside her. You'll regret this, she hissed. I already did, I said softly. For years. The front door closed, and just like that, they were gone. The house fell quiet. No shouting, no footsteps, no laughter that felt like mockery. Just stillness. And for the first time in years, that silence didn't feel heavy. It felt peaceful. Later that week, the divorce papers arrived. The prenup I'd insisted on years ago, the one Greg once teased me about, saved everything. The bakery, the house, my savings. Greg tried to fight it, of course, claimed he deserved a share, but the court saw it for what it was. By the time the ink dried, I was free. Chloe deferred her college plans. Greg's business never took off. They moved into a cramped apartment across town. I should have felt pity. Maybe once I would have. But standing alone in my bakery one quiet morning, watching the sunlight dance across the countertops, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because for once I wasn't paying for someone else's version of happiness. I was finally buying my own. By the time Chloe's graduation rolled around, my hope for that family had worn as thin as parchment. I was running on habit, not love, keeping the peace like it was another unpaid job. When Chloe burst through the door waving her acceptance letter from NYU, I wanted to feel happy for her. I really did. She looked genuinely proud for once, her smile wide and unguarded. "Lauren, Dad, I got in," she shouted, waving the envelope. "That's amazing, Chloe," I said, smiling back. "Congratulations." Greg grinned, pulling her into a hug. "I knew you'd do it, kiddo." Then Chloe turned to me, with a tone so casual, so matter-of-fact, it almost didn't register at first. "So, when can we talk about tuition?" It was like the air froze around me. "Tuition," I repeated. She nodded. "Yeah, I got some aid, but it's not enough. You'll help with the rest, right?" The "you" wasn't even a question. It was an assumption. I looked at Greg, waiting for him to say something, anything, that would make it sound less insane. Instead, he nodded, like it was already settled. "She's right, Hazel," he said calmly. "You can afford it." That's when I knew they'd already talked about this, without me. I took a slow breath, forcing calm into my voice. "Chloe, I'm proud of you, truly. But NYU is extremely expensive. Have you looked into scholarships or part-time work?" Her face twisted in disbelief. "A job. How am I supposed to focus on school if I'm working all the time?" "Plenty of students work while studying," I said evenly. "It builds responsibility." Greg's jaw tightened. "She's just a kid, Hazel. You don't want her to struggle." "A kid," I shot back. "She's 18, Greg, an adult. And for months she's treated me like I don't matter, and now I'm supposed to pay her tuition." Chloe's eyes filled with tears, angry ones. "You're just trying to punish me because of the party." I felt my chest tighten. "Punish you? Chloe, this has nothing to do with that night. This is about money and respect and the fact that I can't keep carrying everyone." Greg threw his hands up. "There it is again. Money, money, money. You're obsessed with it." "No," I said, voice trembling. "I'm obsessed with fairness. You're the one obsessed with my bank account." For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the soft click of Chloe's acrylic nails against her phone. Then Greg said quietly, "You know, Hazel, you're lucky we stayed as long as we did." That sentence, something inside me snapped. "Lucky," I repeated, my voice rising. "You mean lucky I fed you? Lucky I housed you? Lucky I financed every comfort in your lazy life while you played entrepreneur on the couch?" Greg's expression turned cold. "You've changed. You used to be kind." "No," I said, shaking my head. "I used to be naive." He slammed his hands on the table. "Either you help with Chloe's tuition, or I'm filing for divorce." I met his eyes unflinching. "Then file." The silence that followed was deafening. Greg blinked, stunned. He wasn't expecting me to call his bluff. "Fine," he spat. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'll regret it alone." He stormed off, slamming the bedroom door. Chloe followed him upstairs, muttering, "You're so selfish." That night, I sat in the living room long after the lights were off. The walls felt different, like they'd stopped belonging to me a long time ago. I thought about all the times I'd caved for peace, all the things I'd bought to feel wanted, all the words I'd swallowed to avoid conflict. And then I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who built a bakery from nothing, who didn't wait for someone else to hand her happiness. That woman didn't disappear. She'd just been buried under everyone else's needs. The next morning, Greg came down with a different tone, soft, rehearsed, manipulative. "Hazel," he said, "don't do this. We can fix it. You know Chloe needs you." I looked up from my coffee. "No, Greg. She needs you. But you've never actually been there for her, have you?" He stiffened. "That's not fair." "Fair," I said quietly. "You want fair, then pay for your own daughter's college." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. When he realized I wasn't going to back down this time, he packed his things slowly, dramatically, as if expecting me to stop him. I didn't. Chloe glared at me from the stairs, her suitcase beside her. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I already did," I said softly. "For years." The front door closed, and just like that, they were gone. The house fell quiet. No shouting, no footsteps, no laughter that felt like mockery. Just stillness. And for the first time in years, that silence didn't feel heavy. It felt peaceful. Later that week, the divorce papers arrived. The prenup I'd insisted on years ago, the one Greg once teased me about, saved everything. The bakery, the house, my savings. Greg tried to fight it, of course, claimed he deserved a share. But the court saw it for what it was. By the time the ink dried, I was free. Chloe deferred her college plans. Greg's business never took off. They moved into a cramped apartment across town. I should have felt pity. Maybe once I would have. But standing alone in my bakery one quiet morning, watching the sunlight dance across the countertops, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because for once I wasn't paying for someone else's version of happiness. I was finally buying my own. A few weeks after they left, the house was so quiet that I could hear my own thoughts again. I didn't realize how much noise they used to bring with them. The TV always blaring, Chloe's phone vibrating constantly, Greg's sighs echoing from the couch. Now there was only stillness, and honestly, it was the most peaceful sound I'd heard in years. But peace never lasts long when people think they still own a piece of you. It started with a message from Chloe. "Hi Hazel, I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. The words looked sincere, but they felt hollow. Chloe had never apologized before, not even when she'd screamed that I wasn't her real mom in front of a crowd of people. My first instinct was to ignore it. Then I thought of the young girl she used to be, the one who shyly helped me frost cupcakes, the one who called me Miss Hazel with a nervous smile. Maybe she'd grown up. Maybe she meant it. So I replied, "Sure, come by the bakery tomorrow." The next day, she showed up in a dress too formal for a simple visit. Her hair was done, her nails perfect, but her eyes darted around the bakery like she wasn't sure she wanted to be there. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey." I gestured toward a seat. "Coffee." She nodded. For a few moments, we sat in awkward silence, the hum of the espresso machine filling the space. Finally, she spoke. "I miss you." I looked at her carefully. "You miss what I did for you, or you miss me?" Her eyes flickered with something, guilt maybe. "I didn't mean to hurt you. Dad said you'd help me with tuition, but..." She paused, glancing down. "I can't do it alone. NYU's too expensive. Please, Hazel, I really want to go." There it was, the real reason. I felt the disappointment rise, but this time it didn't sting. It just confirmed what I already knew. "Chloe," I said gently, "I'm proud of you for getting in. But you need to understand something. Life doesn't hand you things just because you ask nicely." Tears welled in her eyes. "But I'm trying. You always said you wanted me to have a better future." "I did. But that doesn't mean I can live your life for you." Her tone sharpened. "So you're really not going to help me?" "No," I said simply. "Not with money. But I'll help you figure out a plan if you want. Scholarships, part-time work grants." She shook her head. "Forget it. I should have known you wouldn't care." She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. For a second I thought she might storm out, but she hesitated at the door. "You'll regret this," she said softly. "You always do." And then she left. That evening, as I was closing the bakery, my phone rang. "Greg." I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. "Hazel," his voice oozed with fake warmth. "How are you?" "What do you want, Greg?" He laughed awkwardly. "Straight to business, huh? Look, Chloe's having a tough time. She's been really upset about school. I was wondering if you'd reconsider helping out." "Helping out?" I repeated, my tone flat. "You mean paying her tuition?" He cleared his throat. "I mean, yeah. You know she looks up to you. This would mean a lot." "Greg, let me make this clear." I said, my voice calm but firm. "Chloe is your daughter. You raised her to expect the world without earning it. Not me." He started to speak, but I cut him off. "And don't pretend this is about her future. This is about money, the same thing it's always been about with you." There was silence on the line. Then his voice turned sharp. "You always think you're better than everyone else, Hazel, but you're just bitter and alone." I smiled to myself. Maybe. But at least I'm not broke and desperate. He hung up. I stood there for a while, staring out the bakery window at the streetlights flickering against the glass. I expected to feel angry, but instead I felt lighter, like I'd finally cut the last thread tying me to their chaos. A few days later, a mutual friend stopped by the bakery and mentioned that Greg's business had folded completely. He'd burned too many bridges, owed too many people. Chloe had deferred NYU and was working part-time at a mall. For years, I had carried their weight. Now I watched them try to carry their own and fall apart under it. It should have felt satisfying, but it didn't. It just felt quiet. That night, as I locked up the bakery, I whispered to myself, "This is what freedom sounds like." For the first time in a long time, I believed it. 6 months after Greg and Chloe walked out of my life, the house no longer felt haunted. The air was lighter, the rooms brighter. I could finally breathe without wondering when the next argument, guilt trip, or demand would hit me. I'd always imagined that living alone at 46 would feel lonely, but it didn't. It felt quiet, peaceful, predictable. Every morning I woke up early, brewed coffee, and drove to the bakery as the city was still waking. I'd unlock the doors, turn on the lights, and be greeted by the familiar smell of butter and sugar. It was mine again, not something I was defending, not something I was working to fund for someone else's comfort, just mine. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty for wanting it that way. One morning, I was reviewing plans for a second bakery location when a customer came in. A regular named Irene, an older woman with kind eyes who always ordered the same lemon tart. "Hazel," she said, leaning on the counter, "you look different, lighter." I smiled. Maybe I finally set down a few things I should have dropped years ago. She laughed softly. "Isn't that the trick? Knowing when to stop carrying people who never carry you back?" Her words stayed with me all day. Later that week, while I was decorating a cake, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't need to check somehow, I already knew. "Hi, Hazel." Greg's voice came through tentative. "It's been a while. How are you?" I didn't answer. He kept going, the tone sliding quickly from polite to pleading. "Listen, I know things ended rough, but Chloe's been struggling. She's not doing great. I was hoping maybe you could help her out. You know, just this once." Just this once, the same phrase he'd used 100 times before. "Greg," I said quietly, "what do you want me to do?" "Write a check so she doesn't have to learn a lesson. You should have taught her years ago." He sighed. "She's still your family." I laughed softly. "No, Greg. Family takes care of each other. What you had was a sponsor." He tried to argue, but I wasn't listening anymore. I could hear the desperation in his voice, the same manipulation wrapped in pity that once worked so easily on me. But that woman was gone. "Greg." I interrupted, my voice firm but calm. "If Chloe needs help, she has two parents, you and Na. Handle it." He went quiet. "You're colder than I remember," he said finally. "No," I replied. "I'm just done being warm to people who only show up when they need heat." And I hung up. That night, I sat alone in my kitchen with a cup of tea, looking around the home that used to feel so crowded with resentment. The silence was soft now, not empty, just mine. For years, I thought family meant giving everything, no matter how much it cost. I thought love meant forgiveness, even when forgiveness was used as a weapon. But love isn't blind generosity. Love is boundaries. The next morning, I arrived at the bakery early. Sunlight streamed through the windows, dusting the countertops in gold. I watched the first batch of croissants rise in the oven, the scent filling the air like hope. As I arranged them in the display case, a familiar teenage girl walked in, Chloe. She looked different, tired, older somehow. "Hazel," she said quietly. I froze for a moment, then nodded toward the counter. "Coffee." She hesitated. "No, I just wanted to see you." I didn't speak. She looked down, wringing her hands. "I said some awful things to you. Dad, too. You didn't deserve that." Her voice cracked. "I thought money made everything easy, but turns out when you don't have any, you see who actually cares." I stayed silent, letting her speak. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said finally. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." For the first time in years, I saw not the spoiled teenager, but the scared little girl who used to follow me around the bakery asking to lick the frosting spoon. "I appreciate that," I said softly. She nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You look happy." "I am," I said. "Happier than I've been in a long time." She swallowed hard, then managed a small smile. "Good. You deserve that." And just like that, she left. I watched her go, a strange mix of sadness and relief twisting in my chest. Maybe one day she'd really understand what love costs and what it shouldn't. But that wasn't my burden anymore. That evening, as I locked the bakery doors and turned off the lights, I paused by the window. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the night sky. I whispered to myself, "They said I'd regret being alone, but all I regret is waiting this long to choose myself." The reflection in the glass smiled back at me, steady, strong, and finally free. Because in the end, I didn't lose a family. I just lost the people who made me forget my worth.